Well, hello, and welcome to Stop, Let's Team Up. Hi, I'm your host, Ross Aiken. Today we are doing another winner of the Team Up poll. It's Brave and the Bold is a winner for the second time in a row, because maybe I picked something just too damn good that everybody kind of voted for. So it is Brave and the Bold 200, the final issue of the magazine that had run since 1955 to 1983. It is a team-up of Batman, the Silver Age Batman, and the Golden Age Batman in a beautiful tale told by Mike Barr and Dave Gibbons. So let me give you some of the basics and a little synopsis, and then I'll tell you what I think of it. Okay, this is Brave and the Bold, Volume 1, number 200. It is cover dated July 1983, so April. Came out in April 1983. Yeah, I'm not seeing the exact release date here. The name of the story is Batman and Batman, Smell of Brimstone, Stench of Death. That's a great title. Writer Mike W. Barr, pencilers Dave Gibbons, inker Gary Martin, pages 4 through 19, Dave Gibbons for the rest, colorist Adrian Roy, letterers Dave Gibbons and Gaspar Saldano, editors Lynn Wine, Nicola Cuti. And here is, the team up is Batman. It's the Earth-Two Batman, Earth-One Batman having different adventures, running parallel to one, and not parallel, but we see a flashback because at this point the Earth-Two Batman has died. And this is right before Batman of Earth-One forms the Defenders. So that's where his mindset is, of the post, the Denny O'Neil on to, I'd say, late into the 90s. That version of Batman, I consider that kind of one version. He doesn't really change. Gets a little darker and darker, and then the late 80s and 90s come and everything gets really dark and heavy. But it's the Earth-One Batman and the Earth-Two Batman having similar adventures with a theme. And here's a synopsis from the DC fandom wiki. Nicholas Lucian was an enemy of Batman of Earth-Two, but he never achieved his dream of defeating the Dark Knight. After Lucian's last defeat at the hands of Batman and Robin, he fell into a coma for decades. When he finally recovered, he realized that Batman has died, but its thirst for vengeance was not satisfied. For this reason, Lucian uses his inner powers to possess his Earth-One counterpart, who was an honest businessman, and he started a plot to kill the Batman of that Earth. Batman becomes aware of the presence of Lucian, and just like his Earth-Two counterpart, he defeats Lucian without much trouble. The shock is too great, and Lucian's mind returns to his old body, where it remains for the rest of its days. Despite the strange event, Batman knows that he has perhaps defeated the greatest threat he, or others like him, have ever faced. Alright, that's a very short thing. This is a pretty long comic. It's like 35 pages. It's a double size. It's great. It's gorgeous. But let's go over the people who are in it. Batman Earth-One, Batman Earth-Two, Robin Earth-Two, Commissioner Gordon from Earth, Alfred Pennyworth from Earth-Two, Brimstone, which is Nicholas Lucian. He's a one and done. This is the only time he's appeared. He's a great villain for the Golden Age. Gibbons and Barr create the perfect Golden Age character with him. Their henchmen, he has two henchmen, Pinstripe and Jojo, and then they're on Earth-Two. On Earth-One, he uses the Demons Street Gang, and you get a little cameo from the Joker of Earth-Two. So there's a little in the prologue, and I'm going to share this panel. When it's the tradition of the Earth-One, Earth-Two kind of thing, pre-Crisis Comics was they would give you a recap of what the difference was. And there's a beautiful panel, like it's on page 2, I think. It's a double-page spread, and this panel it's the flashes of both Earth-One and 2, and the Green Lanterns of both 1 and 2. We get to see the difference in the two Commissioner Gordons. Wayne Manor, all this is really different. The differences between, and what I think Gibbons does, because the style of the art is different for the two chapters. It's very Dave Gibbons, but it's very much an homage to 50s Batman, Little Dick Sprang. And I think that's why we have the 14 through 19 art is Gary Martin's inking it to kind of supplement, the continuation of that feel. So I think it's great. I really have loved it. It is one of my favorite reads in the last few months. I forgot how joyous it was. I read it probably I think I read it a lot when I owned more comics, and every once in a while I would go on an artist kick, and I would go look for Dave Gibbons, because Dave Gibbons is, he absolutely amazing comic artist. I first got to know him through Doctor Who Weekly, because he was he drew some of the earliest comic strips in that from the first issue. Did the Tom Baker and most of the Peter Davison art, and it's glorious. I mean, he's glorious. Was it Rogue One? Not Rogue One. Rogue Trooper in Eagle, and of course of Watchmen fame. And he did an amazing, with Lin Wein, run of Green Lantern. A little Hal and a little John Stewart. It's great. So let me go. So let's go to page 4. Yes, there's a definite thing. They're going for a very 50 feels. And Gary Martin's inks kind of changed the art in a good way. And there's some really cartoony panels. And they're just fun. The Hypno thing, the Batmobile, everything is it's just amazing. And when you get to the end of the chapter, which is page 19, I'm thumbing through it as I'm talking to you. There's a different. It's more like the Watchmen kind of feel of Dave Gibbons. His more straightforward feeling. He uses a thicker inking. I want to say, for me, I'm not that kind of artist, but the inking is very light, and on the Gary Martin stuff, and it kind of lightens the art. But the stuff for the second half, I mean, it's just great. It's like, it reminds me of a Batman with Batman layouts and Batman feel, is very much as if Jim Aparo was laying it out. And, that's kind of apropos, because Jim Aparo was the main artist of Brave and the Bold for decades. I think it was more than 20 years. And then was the co-creator with Mike W. Barr of The Outsiders, which is a fun series. I'm going to be covering that soon. I want to have a guest on it, so I'm working on that. And I do want to cover the first arc of Batman and the Insiders, because I read it for the first maybe 25, 30 issues, and then kind of fell off when I wasn't buying a lot of comics. I did like the reboot about the time of the Jeff Johns, Mike McCone, Teen Titans, how those two teams are really interconnected. And I treat them as one big thing. And those are fantastic. I love those. And I love that lineup with Black Lightning's daughters. And it's just great. But let's get back to this. But this is, it's really the two different stories. I mean, it's got a Silver Age feel to it. And late Silver Age, early Silver Age feel to it. Just in the length and the titles. I do want to read this because it starts with, a nice Jim Aparo cover. It is a beautiful cover. And then the splash page is the title card. And it's got Brave and Bold logo, the box logo, and then Batman and Batman, the two, like the more, whatever the recent 83 logo was, which is really a 70s logo. Okay, this is near the end of that logo. If I remember correctly, it disappears relatively quickly in the next 2-3 years. And then there is like a late 50s one with the B being a bit bigger, the face, and the Batman has a little black on the front of the cowl and the ears are less pointy. And it's got Brimstone in a yellow and red, his giant face, and in front of him are the two Batmans facing off, and they're standing on this yellow. It's like a negative image. That kind of effect where the background is one or two colors and then the drawing is all in red. It's beautiful. There's a lot of Brimstone has such a great face. It kind of looks like the owl hair. He's got the same haircut as the owl or Wolverine in a way, and a beard, a big red beard. It's great. But and the title is at the bottom: Smell of Brimstone, Stench of Death. Again, great title. And then there's a 2-page spread, and it's called a prologue, and it talks about Earth-One, Earth-Two. It's where that panel I told you about comes from. And then it shows you side by side Lucian the villain and Lucian the businessman, and then they're them looking at each other from the other side of mirrors. It's very cool. And then the story goes right into a Batman with Robin the Boy Wonder logo from the 50s, and like you're reading the splash page of a reprint of an old comic. And here's it's Brimstone sitting on a golden throne with horns, shooting from his trident a flame ray, and there's all this money around him. He's in a cave. It's just and Batman and Robin the flame is going between them as they charge. And the caption on it is, "He's back. The plutonic plunderer, that modern Mephistopheles, returns to bedevil Gotham City and to take revenge against the dynamic duo. But before Batman and Robin can make things hot for their old foe, they'll have to face fire and brimstone. It's amazing. And it's got little Bob Kane, created by Bob Kane in the corner, just like the old comics. And then it goes into, and the panel layout is very much like a 50s panel layout with some, just the way they're structured and the flashback. Everything is looking like it was drawn then, but by Dave Gibbons and Gary Martin. You get to see the round, pudgy face with the pencil mustache, Commissioner Gordon. They're big things like the archery contest where they go to steal stuff from there. And there's all the big stuff from the 50s. And Batman's Bat Lab is a counter with chemicals and a microscope. It's no supercomputer database thing that we see nowadays. But the dinosaur is in there. But the dinosaur is not a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's a long neck dinosaur in this. It's weird, but it's the different Earths. And it's great. They go to different factories. There's this great panel, I'm going to share it, where it's just a circle panel with a big word balloon with Lucian, a.k.a. Brimstone, yelling, "Batman must die." It's great. All the companies have, great big signs. Batman gets thrown into a pit where lava is pumped in, and he escapes. And then you have a flashback of how he escaped by turning one of the pipes into a bomb and blowing a tunnel straight up to the level. And then they knock him. Batman punches Brimstone. He hits his head on the cauldron with incense or smoke. And he's knocked unconscious. And then we go to an interlude. 1983, Gotham State Prison, stop at gate. And it's Dr. Lincoln is introduced. She's coming in to check on him. He's been in a coma, and she's going to use an experimental drug. And she gives him a shot, and he wakes up, and he's got the same, it's untidy, but the same haircut, but it's white and red mixed. It's 28 years later. He's lost all this time. He wants his vengeance against Batman, and the Joker pops up. Here's Lucian, and Lucian says this. He's brooding in front of the sink, and he's saying, and he's recovering because he hasn't moved in years. "I was a young man when Batman did this to me, but he'll pay." And then you hear this cackling voice, an apologism due by Mark Hamill. "I wouldn't count on that, prune face, unless you've got a terrific collection agency. Here, have a read. It's cold off the presses. But like they say, any book you haven't read is a new book, ha ha." And the headline says, "Gotham Globe, Batman is dead." And then we go to another page, and there's this one long panel, and it's Lucian sitting in his prison cell in his wheelchair, and he's thinking. And I'm going to give you the narration on this page because I really do love it, because it's that, and then it is 5 panels to the side. It is beautiful storytelling laid out by Dave Gibbons. Alone in the silence, he can feel himself withering, dying. His hate is all that has kept him alive these past days, perhaps these past 3 decades. But now even that begins to pale. How long can hate survive when the hated one is dead? Then he remembers. Unearths long buried memories of another Nicholas somewhere. And if there is another Nicholas, may there not be another hated one? Yes. Okay, and then a guard walks, and that's 3 panels. That the last bit I said, where he remembers it, and they are stacked on top of each other to the right of the long panel. And panel 4 is a guard walking by the cell, and you're seeing it from inside the cell and past Lucian. "You okay, Lucian? Want a glass of water or something? Oh, Lucian?" And then the bottom panel is Dr. Dr. Lincoln, the guard, and the warden standing around him, and Dr. Lincoln saying, "I don't understand this." And the warden goes, "Is it the coma again, Doctor?" "No, Warden. It's almost as though his mind is gone." Because he has traveled to the other side of the multiverse and is now inhabiting the Lucian in the modern times. So we're back in the Batcave, and the Penny's there. I don't see the dinosaur, but Alfred brings Master Bruce some tea. Okay, he has an early laptop and chemicals. So we're getting toward the big screen. And Lucian is using a gang to do his dirty work. And there's a lot of fighting, and there's, Batman figuring it out. And Batman gets thrown into another lava trap, this Batman. And what he does is he rips part of the fireproof wall down and uses it as a flotation device and floats his way up. And then he jumps to the camera. When he gets high enough, he jumps to the camera, and then he blows his way into the room. And in the fight between the two, this Lucian is knocked out. And then we have a flashback to how he escaped, because the Batman's MacGyver. And Lucian wakes up and remembers nothing, and that's the end of it. And the epilogue is in two sides on the first, page 39. Okay, it's 40 pages. It's 3 panels read down, and then another 3 panels read down from top to bottom. One is on Earth-Two, and it's the Warden and Dr. Lincoln talking, and they don't think that Lucian will ever recover, and Lucian is laying in a coma with a nurse writing on a clipboard, and he's crying. And the other panel is Batman and the other Lucian, and it's him thinking, wow, this is all over. And Batman's watching the Earth-One Lucian leave the City Hall, where he's given his deposition or whatever, done his report, and been lie detected. And then the final panel is this Batman swinging in a very traditional way. It's Dave, but it really reads Jim Aparo to me. So I'm thinking Dave Gibbons loves Jim Aparo. And then back in a silhouette is the other Batman. And then there's a little Batmite comic in the back. And then there's a preview of Batman and the Outsiders, which I will not cover here. I will cover when I do Batman and the Outsiders. So this is, I jabbered on about some page loud and stuff, because it is, Dave Gibbons is so good at it, and it is so beautifully drawn. And I'm reading it on the app, and it's gorgeous. It makes me want to go own a physical copy of this comic, because it's one you can read by itself over and over and over again. It holds up. That it was written pre-crisis. I think a modern reader would love it, because it treats with such reverence what went before and the joy, and why there are a lot of us who like Silver Age comics from before we were born, due to some of the simplicity and the way the artist told stories. I'm a big Dick Sprang fan. And then if you're listening to the Legion episodes, I'm a big John Forte fan, and I'm watching John Forte develop. I mean, but a lot of these comic artists, you can see their influences, and you can tell that Gibbons was a huge Silver Age DC fan. So the love is on the page. I mean, it is absolutely on the page. This is a comic everybody, if you're a DC fan or a Batman fan, should read. It's absolutely amazing. Okay, I mean, I can't gush anymore. If you have it on the app, read it. If not, if you have it in a box somewhere and you haven't read it in 20 years, go grab it. All right, so next is our Legion Adventure 306, episode 22, 21. I am not looking, so we'll be up on Tuesday. There may be some delays. I am solo, wifeless, and working, and I think I'm down an employee for a few days, so it's going to be busy. I'm going to do this. I'm trying to get set up next weekend to record. I am going to do the new post with a replacement Brave and the Bold, and let's see if one of the other three can come up. Because Brave and the Bold's will last 2 times, and I guess I have a lot of DC fans following me, but that's great. Come on. So, folks, let me just say my goodbyes. Not goodbyes, but until we meet again. But until then, be smart, be kind, be principled, because we're in some rough times right now, and read some comics.